there, thank you for watching. If you like what you see and hear, please subscribe and hit that bell button. Warning, everything you're about to see and hear comes from newspaper articles, court transcripts, and interviews with those involved. Thank you for watching. Other Montgomery Village residents were unable to offer up any helpful information, so police would turn their attention to the most obvious witness, Clara Coleman, who was working at the mini-mart when Peaches visited. She saw Peaches in the store and believed that the little girl had left around 5 p.m., just 48 minutes before her mother called authorities. The clerk confirmed that Peaches had done just what her mother asked. She had purchased a 16-ounce soda. Another witness was Laura Rebecca Moore. She would meet with investigators on January the 2nd of 1981. She told them that her 9-year-old daughter had been at the laundromat on the day of the disappearance. The little girl let them know that Peaches had entered the laundromat and spoke with her before leaving. When she stepped outside, she saw Peaches speaking with a man in a white Volkswagen. She believed that Avery was inside the laundromat between 4 and 5 p.m. The girl's story would be corroborated by 30-year-old Kathy Church, the woman who drove her there. This led authorities to believe that Peaches had been abducted somewhere between the store and her apartment. They would learn that she was quiet, shy, and spunky. Those who knew her well did not believe she would have gotten into a car with a stranger. Whether good or bad, this would result in authorities placing more emphasis on people Peaches knew. Montgomery Village was and still is not a good place for children. After all, it's one of the roughest neighborhoods in Knoxville, if not Knox County. The low-income apartment complex is operated by Knoxville's Community Development Corp. The area is swarming with drug dealers, gang members, and thieves. In 1980, police would receive reports of 218 burglaries at the 450-unit complex. That was nearly one burglary for every 2 apartments. Residents complained that their mail would be stolen if they weren't at the mailbox as soon as the mailman left. Bars secured windows on many buildings in the neighborhood, and the surrounding wooded area was a common hiding place for criminals and trespassers. Some Montgomery Village residents were hesitant to speak with police, and many did not report crimes to authorities. One of the primary suspects would be a resident at the apartment complex. The other would be the girl's father. Investigators would track down Avery's father, Elwood Shorts. At the time of the disappearance, he was living in an apartment on Broadway. His daughter went missing on December the 26th, and he had not seen her since November. He was cooperative and agreed to take a polygraph test. After passing that test, he would be ruled out as a suspect. Authorities would then turn their attention to Mitchell Arvil Webb, who sometimes referred to himself as Mitchell Reed. He lived in an apartment in the 400 block of Daylily Drive. He visited Hazel and Peaches on the day of the disappearance. Hazel let him buy her gifts. During the summer of 1980, he took her to a Kmart and let her buy whatever she wanted. They would leave the store with two two-piece shorts and top outfits, an avocado green swimsuit, and a camera. Sometime in late August or early September, Webb would come back, wanting the items to be returned. This would create a problem for Hazel. She no longer had them. She claimed that some of the clothing had been stolen when she hung it outside on the clothesline. As for the old-fashioned camera, well, she threw it in the garbage. Hazel would later claim that Webb threatened her when she did not return the items. He told me that he was going to get even one day. She asked him, "Are you going to get me or one of my kids?" Webb would reply, "Don't worry about it." Hazel would tell the Knox News Sentinel that she is pretty sure she had told police about the threat. Investigator in charge, Jim Winston, said that she did not. After the disappearance, Webb would visit Hazel again. This time, police officers would be there. Hazel and her friend would agree that Webb was acting strange, as if he had done something wrong. Webb would return an officer's baton when he left it behind, then he would leave without incident. Additional incriminating evidence would come from Webb's acquaintance, Jerry Downs. He would come forward and tell police that Webb claimed he had tossed the girl's body off Kate's Bridge. After Jerry passed a polygraph test, the Knox County Rescue Squad would drag the river, while dogs and helicopters searched the area. But nothing would be found. When questioned by investigators, Webb would admit that he was at the mini-mart on the day of the disappearance, but he did not see Peaches there. Once he left the store, he drove to Central Street and cruised the area looking for his friends so he could shoot dice. He couldn't find his buddies, so he wound up calling his girlfriend, Mary Elliott, at 5:30 p.m. He would ask her if she needed anything. She said no, and he hung up. He would call back later at 6:10 p.m. By then, Mary had a toothache. She let Webb know about it. He would show up at Mary's apartment in the 1500 block of Daylily Drive with some Orajel and Excedrin around 6:50 p.m. It was around this time that he would visit Hazel. Webb would later say that a woman stopped him outside the mini-mart and asked for a ride. He would refuse. A dog would find Peaches' scent in the Cadillac, but that was to be expected. After all, Webb had used the car to take Smith and Peaches places all the time. A local boy would let police know that he had seen Peaches outside the store speaking to a man who looked like Webb with a brown car. The boy would later change his story, and police suspected that his parents were to blame. Mitchell Webb was simply not a good man. He was well known by police and was frequently arrested for thefts and burglaries. A year before Peaches disappeared, he would be questioned in the strangling death of 62-year-old Emma Brewer, who was found dead in her Western Avenue apartment. He would not be charged in that crime. Despite it all, investigators had no body and not enough evidence to charge Mitchell Webb. They would interview more than 100 people, but they would keep returning to their primary suspect, Mitchell Arville Webb. The disappearance of Peaches would send shivers down the spines of Knoxville parents. Those in Montgomery Village would be hit particularly hard, and some would decide to do something about it. On February the 8th of 1981, Mayor Randy Tyree would encourage Knoxvillians to say a prayer for her safe return. Praying was about the only thing they could do. Residents of Montgomery Village were on edge. They would meet with local authorities to address their concerns. They would complain about the doors to their apartments. They did not close securely, so they could easily be kicked in or jimmied. They asked for peepholes to be installed so they'd know who was standing outside their door. Concerned residents also pleaded with authorities to do something about the mailbox situation, so their mail would no longer be stolen. Executive Director of Knoxville's Community Development Corp., John Ulmer, would ask Mayor Randy to install a sidewalk from Montgomery Village to the nearby store. That has since been done. Finally, they wanted the nearby wooded area to be cleared. Southern Railway officials would clear the brush a short time later. Some were more aggressive about protecting their community. The Crime Prevention Bureau worked with 19 volunteers from Montgomery Village to establish a neighborhood watch program. The volunteers would patrol the property from 7 p.m. until 1 a.m. during the week and until 4 a.m. on the weekend. The patrol was somewhat successful, as volunteers once put out a fire and saved 2 babies in the process. Other residents despised the volunteers and referred to them as the Snitch Patrol. The residents also set up a Mother's Patrol. 12 volunteer mamas would agree to watch out for other small children and meet the kids when the school bus arrived in the afternoon. One volunteer, Bessie Howard, wished more mothers would get involved. She would go on to say that she once found a 2-year-old wandering around the nearby railroad tracks. Valuables belonging to the residents were marked as a part of Operation Identification to ensure that they could be returned if they were ever stolen and recovered in the future. A Morristown psychic would offer his help, but the information he gave police did very little to help bring Peaches home. Other families of crime victims were not happy with the amount of manpower and resources dedicated to the Peaches case, but that did not change anything. On the next episode. During the investigation, police would receive many tips that they felt were not credible. She saw Peaches at the Kroger on Tazewell Pike. Their year was about to start off with a ghastly discovery.